Hi, this is Mark Schlander. I'm the Global Domain Executive for Manufacturing for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Today we're at Hannover Messe. We'll be talking to my colleague Tripp Partain on our work at GE Digital with their Predix solution.
My name is Tripp Partain with Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I'm the CTO supporting the GE account. And today we want to talk about the partnership that we have between HPE and GE Digital, and specifically around the GE Predix platform. So first, it probably makes sense to start with a little bit of an overview as to what is GE Predix. It is a platform as a service built on a microservices infrastructure based on Cloud Foundry. And the idea is to provide an environment for industrial companies to resolve their IoT use cases and to be able to do deeper levels of analytics, grab more information, more precise data, and to be able to drive new business outcomes from that. So if we look over at the screen, we've got a little bit of an overview of the Predix platform. So we've got the infrastructure as a service. So again, as a cloud-based platform, and that can be both public or private cloud, the users of the platform don't have to worry about the infrastructure. The infrastructure is provided as part of the service. Layered on top of that, you've got Cloud Foundry, which is a standards-based, open source, open platform that drives a microservices-based framework that makes very easy, small snippets of code that can be leveraged and pulled together to quickly build out applications. Now you start to get to the real secret sauce from a GE Predix standpoint. Lots of companies can talk about IoT, lots of companies can talk about cloud infrastructure, cloud architecture, but what they don't have that GE has is years and years of experience in the key industrial areas where they focus, and these industries are the places that have these deep problems that are trying to be solved. So on top of this IoT platform, GE is able to leverage their asset models, data models, analytics, security models, and other operational expertise that they developed over the last 10, 20, 30 years and have traditionally been deploying in a regular software model. They now are taking those learnings, taking that experience, moving it to this microservices platform, and then actually make it available in a catalog. So there's now a catalog of services within the GE Predix ecosystem. Basically think of each of these tiles as like Lego pieces. So when you get ready to build something, instead of actually having to form the bricks, you grab the Legos in the size, in the color that you need, and then all you're doing is really piecing them together to get the overall outcome that you want. So as an example, there's a number of services here GE has within the catalog that can be stitched together depending on the application and the use case to quickly put together an industrial IoT application to help solve that problem and drive the business outcome. And additionally, if I were to look a little deeper into the analytics, again, based on the experience and having years and years of industrial data and doing the analysis, both with their own internal factories as well as with their customers, there's lots of different types. In this case, this is around anomaly detection. There's lots of different models that they have experience with that they know how to apply into certain industrial scenarios. And these are all now available that you can instantly grab, use, map to your incoming data, and quickly get to the business outcome that you're looking to drive. So that's a little bit of an overview of what the Predix platform is. Now, if I talk about the partnership between GE Digital, and HPE, this is one that actually goes back a number of years. We've been working with them as an OEM provider, meaning they embed our technologies into the products and services that they sell, and we've been doing that for a number of years. If you've ever been to the doctor or been to the hospital and had to have a CT scan, there's a good possibility the big machine that you had to lay down and go into was built by GE. And it's nice and shiny white plastic with a big GE logo on the outside. But what you probably didn't know is inside of that CT machine is actually a bunch of HPE servers that are actually collecting all of the magnetic images that are being captured from the CT, putting those together and rendering those into the 3D image that then drives the CT scan. So we've had a long-standing relationship with GE where they've been embedding our technologies, and we're carrying that relationship forward with GE Digital related to the Predix platform. And there's really two key areas we're doing that. And one of those is around edge analytics and edge processing, and that's going to be the use case and the demo that we're going to look at here in just a few minutes. There's a number of cases, regardless of the industry, regardless of the business problem you're trying to solve, where the amount of data you're processing, no matter how good a bandwidth you have, no matter how much money you have to spend, it just doesn't make sense to send all of that data from the location where it's actually happening off to some other location, then having processing happen, and then send the result set back. There are use cases where it makes a lot of sense to do that processing right there on site, get immediate results, and then act on those results. And from an HPE standpoint, we leverage our edge line, server line of converged systems to be able to do that sort of high-powered data center processing, but being able to do it in a non-data center environment like a factory floor, like an oil field, and I can process and grab the data right there on the spot, do the processing, and process the results. And we'll look at that example in a moment. Additionally, within our partnership, we're also enabling customers to consume the Predix platform in multiple ways. The traditional Predix offering is a multi-tenant public cloud offering. And if a customer wants to use that and that makes sense in their model, we absolutely support that. We can also support a hybrid IT structure where you have some of the processing happening in the public cloud and you could have other things happening on the edge. And the third one that we're most excited about and is probably most interesting is there's a lot of customers, because of the industry, because of the country they're in, because of regulations, because of cost, because of bandwidth availability, want to leverage the Predix platform, but they can't do it in a public cloud fashion. So HPE is actually able to offer the full Predix cloud stack, but in a private cloud consumption model, which can be run directly in the customer's data center or in a third party that the customer works with that supports their data center. So we're really excited about that offering, and we're actually seeing a lot of traction in the marketplace where customers were a little hesitant to go to an IoT cloud platform, but now that they can actually have that in a protected private cloud environment, they're a lot more excited, and we've got a lot of opportunities going. So now let's take a moment and kind of walk through the demo and look at what we're gonna talk about today. So what we've got here, so we're at Hannover Messe, so we have a show floor with lots of people walking around in a booth type fashion. So what we've done is we've retrofitted the booth with two types of sensors. One is a video camera, which is actually placed at the entrance of our transformation tunnel, which is right behind us here. And additionally, we have a number of sensors, an example of one right here, that's being powered by Raspberry Pi with a sense hat sitting on top of that, which is able to detect things like temperature, pressure, humidity, and 9 degrees of movement. So lots of motion, churn, turn, yaw, spin. So we've got these spread out all over the booth. We have one over on the espresso machine, which is obviously very important to the folks here to try to keep us energized and moving. We have one here at the booth, and we also have them spread out in some of the other demo pods that are sitting behind us. So what we're going to do is we've got live video analytics that we're running on everybody as they walk in the booth, and because of the amount of video data that you process to do this, we have our Edgeline 1000 that's here on site that's powering that use case and is doing the analytic and the video analysis right here live. So to show you an example of that, this is our idle software solution that does video analytics. I've got a live data feed. I've got a live data feed here showing you people as they're walking by the booth or as they're walking into our transformation tunnel. And what's happening here is the algorithm is running against the live feed, and as it sees an image that it thinks is a person, it grabs a snapshot of that, and then we start to get some metadata such as the location of the person, the size of the image that it thinks is the person, a confidence rating as to how confident the algorithm is that that image is actually a person, and then other metadata. That snapshot data is what we're actually capturing and sending up to the Predix environment, as opposed to all of the raw video data that we're processing in order to get the actual people identified. So as part of our edge use case, that's where it makes sense of, we've got a lot of local processing with a lot of data. We're able to do that right here live at the booth, powered by our Edgeline converged system, and doing that in real time. get the snapshot data, the actual goodness that we want to run analytics on, and that's what we're sending up to our Predix environment. So once that data has been captured, we'll go look at our application in Predix and show what we're doing with the captured video data. So now that we're back to our use case here, real quick, I'd like to highlight our partner Metellio that we worked with. So these guys worked with us here at HPE and provided the development resources who actually built out our Predix application. Great partner to work with, and just wanted to give them a little shout out here on the video for all the great work that they did for the demo. So now as I click through to get to them, I've got a couple of different applications on here, so it'll take me a second to get into them. So I'm going to go into my video application now, set my refresh rate. So what's happening is I've got the images that have been captured that are being sent up into our video application, and as they're been sent up, we're creating a heat map that shows for the view the camera has of our booth over on the backside here, where we're seeing concentrations of people since the event began. So you can start to see some of the demo booths that are getting a little more traffic than others. You can see some other congregation areas here in the doorway. So this gives us an idea of, first I've got my local analytics doing the real-time video processing to identify the person. Once I get that person identified, I can look over a long time series to figure out, okay, what patterns did I see and where the people were going in the booth, and then I could take this information back and start to have a different kind of conversation about how we plan the booth, how we size the booth, how we shape it going forward. I could take this same model and apply it into a number of industrial settings using video analytics. If I've got use cases around safety concerns, I could use the video analytics to, one, make sure we don't have people entering an area they're not supposed to. And when they do and they get identified, then we're able to quickly notify someone to make sure the area gets cleared. I could also train this model to do not just people recognition, but facial recognition. So I could go a step further and say, not only do I want people in here, but I only want certain people in the area. So I could also have the same algorithm run and make sure I've only got certain people in certain areas. And it's not just restricted to people. I can also train it for objects. So if I have an industrial area where only certain parts are supposed to be used, I could have the video analytics trained so that if a part that's not certified for a certain area comes into that area, I could raise an alert to make sure someone understood that it may or may not be a problem, but we have a part that's not been certified for this particular operation that's being used for that operation. So as you start to think about it, there's a lot of flexibility with a video camera that can be leveraged to power these types of use cases. And the advantage of doing something like a video camera or like one of these Raspberry Pi sensors is these can very easily be retrofitted into existing industrial areas, which could have years and years of different types of equipment and different types of layouts. As an example, all of the stuff we did here at the booth, we came in the night before and retrofitted the camera and all the sensors based on the way the booth was laid out, just to prove out how easy it is to be able to take sensors and camera with the right kind of power around it and the right sort of edge processing and cloud-based processing to be able to put together these sort of use cases in a very short amount of time. And if I'll show you one other piece on the demo, so we looked at the video, now let's take a look at some of our sensor data just to get an example of what we're doing there. So I've got 5 sensors spread out all over the booth. And we'll go pick sensor 2 here for a moment. As you can see, I've got a whole range of information that the sensor's capturing. I've got pressure, temperature, humidity. I've got a number of movement and directional information that I'm collecting as well. And I'm also able to set thresholds so that I know which information I'm getting back for each of these categories is an acceptable or not acceptable piece of information. So I can set my thresholds to determine, and if something crosses the threshold, you can see things going red. Now red may not always be a bad situation, but certain combination of red for certain amounts of time, that may actually indicate a real problem. So I'm able to build out the additional analytics that not only looks at these individually, but looks at them in combination over a time period. And when those sort of thresholds are crossed, I can start to get alerts that pop up and let me know when that happens. Additionally, I can say instead of looking at just one sensor, I can look at multiple sensors and do a comparison across. So in this example, I've got sensors 1, 2, and 3 selected, and let's say we're going to pick temperature. That's pressure, temperature. So I can refresh my Predix application, selecting it on sensors 1, 2, and 3, and now I can start to get a comparable around the temperature of all 3 of those sensors. And what's interesting here is sensor 3, which is reading way hotter than the others, that's the one that's on top of the espresso machine. So we would expect that to be a much warmer situation. So even though it's a lot hotter, we don't raise an alarm there because, well, we're hoping that we've got a lot of good espresso getting produced and that we're just tracking how hot that is. This first sensor is actually on a bright light that's at the entrance to our tunnel. So again, we would expect that to be a much warmer area. So even though it's slightly higher than the normal rating, it's still acceptable because of the type of environment that we're monitoring. And lastly, we've just got the local temperature here, and normally it's probably a little lower, but now that I've been talking for this long and been on camera for this long, I'm sure I've warmed up the area a little bit, so we're starting to get the temperature to raise up just a hair. And then once you've got this type of data captured, you start to look at the use case or the operational case that you're trying, or the business case you're trying to solve, then you can very quickly and easily figure out what combination of analytics based on this data or a combination of data really makes sense to drive the business outcome that you're looking for. And that's really what the value is with the HPE partnership with GE Digital. They bring the operational technology or the OT expertise, we bring the IT expertise, and it really takes both of those coming together to really drive real IoT solutions to bring value for customers. So I appreciate your time today, for taking a little bit of time to look at what we're doing here with the demo and with our partnership with GE Digital. Thank you again.